So we're going to start with a couple of basic things here. We're just going to kind of review what does what damage and then put them all together just to see what's going on with it. This character, 493 CR. My current might is 601, 136. This is a might build base, so if you're more comfortable with weapons, obviously switch stuff around to get precision. Go from there. I am using a few modifications that are not out of the box. You may not have all of these. If you don't, that's fine. We're going to kind of discuss some of the alternatives along the way. The big one for augments, obviously, we want our new augment there. That's really not going to do a lot of the heavy lifting here, but it does provide a lot of punch for the might side, which you're going to want. So make sure you have that leveled up to at least level 2, because that's going to give you access to the Luminous beam ability. That ability rocks. It rocks all socks. So that's big step number one. For artifacts, right now I've got a Grim, 200 Grim. He's not equipped, so he doesn't mess with our stuff for a moment. We're going to come back to him here in a second, but right now we're going to just look at the other things. Transformation card, obviously. Mercy, this is going to have all of our pet stuff, I guess. A 200 Mercy does a crap load of stuff for pets. It provides healing back to your pets. They do damage when you summon them. It has an ability that allows you to make your Crystal Fury Robot Sidekick do a little extra damage for a little while. It reduces the cooldown of your actual trinket pet, which is the Motherbox in this situation. We'll come back to it here in a moment, by 6 seconds per use, which means every 6 seconds you can use that ability and reduce the cooldown of your pet by 6 seconds. If you can make this line up perfectly, which you're not going to worry about, we'll get into why, but if you can make it line up perfectly, it's potentially possible to have your trinket pet, which is going to be the mother box specifically. It's not talking about henchmen or sidekicks, but it'll make that type of pet summonable basically every 60 seconds instead of having the 60-second cooldown on it. This is awesome because those pets are all good. Also, shields. Anytime you summons it with a shield. If you heal yourself above 95% health, it gives you a secondary shield for your pets. And once you have it up to 200, increases the actual shield strength by 50%. So that's the Mercy module. Red Tornado Redistribution module. If you're running ice, this build is a tank build, and we're using the Mr. Freeze ability, so we'll come back to that here in a moment. But if you're using ice and you're using a tank build, you need this artifact. To be frank, you need this artifact with any tank, no matter what. It doesn't have to be 200 for it to be useful. It starts being useful earlier than that. But as you can see here, 25% might, 12.5% precision, and heals you for 15% of your outgoing damage. So you hit something for 1,000,000 damage, you get 150k heal back on the spot. This is important, and these are not hypothetical numbers. As you're going to see here in a moment, that's a very real number for a reason. It also has the ability to do other fun things. We're not concerned with that. We're mostly concerned with the might and precision bonus and the fact that it gives you healing coming in. That healing coming in allows you to activate the Mercy healing going out, thereby keeping your pets alive longer. Now, the other part of that conversation is you're a tank in this particular build, so it doesn't matter, you know. From the standpoint of it being a high number, you just need it to do some healing, so it triggers the shields and things like that. You're not necessarily going to be relying on them to take the damage for you. And then the last one would be the Source Shard, which gives you the Godwave Strength. The Godwave Strength activates 200% increased damage for 5 seconds for 3 pets. So you're going to have more than 3 pets here. I don't know if there's a real determining factor telling you how many get what. So we're not going to get into that, but that's how that works. If you've already got a Godwave shard and a Mercy, then you should know what those two things do. This is what they do at level 200, just for awareness. Motherbox, tier 3. You don't necessarily need it to be a tier 3 pet, but having a tier 3 pet is nice. So, but that's standard trinket pet, 120-second cooldown, 60-second uptime. So, basically, every 2 minutes you can use it, it stays out for 1 minute, and you can reduce that by using the Mercy ability. Now, we're going to move over to allies for a second, because that's kind of where our meat and potatoes are at for a couple of different things. In this particular build, I've got Superman set up with Kryptonian channeling. This build is very power hungry, so you might consider switching Superman out from the channeling to Oracle, just for the power regen, or Cyborg if you have him leveled up. You're going to be using abilities constantly, so Oracle is probably actually not a bad idea. 12.5% power regen back after using 6 abilities. You'll do that in the first 10 seconds, or the first 5 seconds of your rotation. Sorry. So yeah, that's what you can do there. But the one that we're really here to look at today is Mr. Freeze. We're not going to be testing him so much inside of the section that we're doing right now. That's going to be later, and I'll have a special test for that, since it's going to require combat. You have to have the incoming damage for the Snow Devils to be summoned, just to have an idea as to how they work. Now, that's our allies, that's our artifacts, that's our might, so you know where our baseline stats are at for everything. And let's go ahead and look at our loadout. This particular build, and I'm still kind of experimenting with this, and this is not usually how I build my tank, though I am considering it as an option now after having seen what it can do. Top row, this is going to be where your offensive effects are at, and then the bottom row is where all of your support stuff, shields, Robot Sidekick, make sure you get Robot Sidekick, Godwave Strength, which is only going to be used once every 18 seconds, but it has a ability to change its cooldown, so you're going to keep checking the second row. And then, of course, shields, boom, 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 hard light, shadow restraints, winter ward, and, of course, Neovenom boost. Top row, this is a pretty standard might loadout for ice right now, to be frank. I've got a couple of modifications because it is a tank loadout. Spore Pod is just kind of a good way to open. If you don't have Spore Pod, Wintry Tempest will work just fine. Wintry Tempest is a power interaction applicator, so it will go ahead and give you that extra damage from things that require Frostbite. This really doesn't have a lot of Frostbite or power interaction required stuff in this loadout. The one power interaction move, obviously, Frost Blast. You do want a power interaction for that. The other part of that conversation is Mercy's going to give you PI application on your Robot Sidekick anyway, so you may not need it. I didn't use it at all during the big test, which we'll get back to here in a moment. But then Luminous Beam, Frost Blast, Avalanche, those are going to be our 3 damage producers. We're not going to worry about Dazed for Luminous Beam, because Luminous Beam does 1 million damage when it crits. We don't care about it doing a little more. It would be cool if it did, but for the purposes of what we're doing here, it works just fine. Frost Blast, again, same thing. Does 1 million damage when it crits, 1.2 if you have that power interaction up. You want Frost Blast. And then Avalanche. Avalanche is nice because it's kind of multi-hit. It hits multiple targets at the same time. Always, it has very good range, like both Luminous Beam and Frost Blast do. It doesn't require a power interaction, and its cooldown is very short. Then Mercy's attack protocol we put up here in the top bar, because you're going to be using it the most often out of your support abilities, and you're going to want to have access to it. Now, the way this is going to work, we'll show you the rotation here in a moment, but first we're just going to test a couple of things just to get you some numbers and some awareness. So, Here on my combat page, I'm going to suggest you go ahead and go over to options, settings, gameplay, combat parser interval, 10 seconds, just so you have a consistent but immediate read on what it is that you're doing. And we're just going to test a couple of things. First off, we're going to test the Robot Sidekick. I do that by going, boop. I smack him once, then the Robot Sidekick gets pissed off and starts attacking. And we just let the Robot Sidekick attack, because he's very good at that. That's all the Robot Sidekick does. Boom, boom, boom. And you just want to let this go for the next minute or two, or hell, 30 seconds, just to kind of get an idea as to what your Robot Sidekick is doing by itself. Boom, boom, boom. As you can see, our first round was 36k, second round 32k. Our third read here, 42k. Robot Sidekick, I've found generally retails around 35 to 40k once you're up in the 490 range for CR. So I'm not sure exactly what stats drive its damage, but you can always expect, you know, somewhere above 30k and below 50k consistently. And I would say, you know, 37, 35 would probably be a good way to factor it into your rotation if you're doing actual damage calculation. Now, we're just going to use that. Boop. Mercy. Mercy overclocks it. Boom, 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 boom. Ooh, yeah, robot does extra damage. Robot did a lot of extra damage that time. That'll give you a good idea as to how Mercy works. Boom. Let's go ahead and try that again just to see. Boom, 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 boom. And you'll see Mercy gives the robot a fucking beam attack, which is nice. It's cool. It does extra damage. It hurts. Boom. Keep hitting him, robot. Now, this is where I'm going to demonstrate one of the more important mechanics, and we'll come back to it later when we're doing the actual loadout all the way through. But anytime you use Mercy, you want to go ahead and cycle down to the bottom row and use Godwave. Now the robot's doing a crap load of damage. As you can see, those 4-digit numbers became 6-digit numbers there for a moment. We literally doubled the robot's performance for that amount of time. Boom, boom. And pow, pow, pow. So that's the main function that we're aiming for here, is to kind of, anytime we use Mercy, we want to use Godwave. In between using Mercy, we're going to be using the other moves. But as you can see here, the only thing that's hitting right now is the robot. The robot did 1 million damage by itself, well, 1.3 million damage by itself, with those two moves applied to it for the prior 10 seconds. So, awesome. The robot's rocking. Let's go over here, test a couple of other things out just to give you an idea as to how they're going to perform, and then we're going to put it all together for you, okay? Let's go ahead and shut the robot off here for a moment. Boop, bye-bye, robot. And I build this as a tank build as opposed to a pure DPS build, because the tank portion of it guarantees that you're going to have incoming damage, which is going to create opportunities for those snow devils to exist and provide you with a situation where they're going to be able to do that damage. Now, we're just going to be doing Mercy and Godwave here. Let's go ahead and get a baseline for our Motherbox. These things are awesome, by the way. If you don't have one, it might be worth your time to go spend some time in Themyscira. It might be worth your time to get a little bit of cash together and buy one off the broker. But there's nothing bad you can say about this particular pet. So we've got our baseline 66, 58. I think I'm going to let it beat for another second here before we start doing anything to it. 52. You can generally expect the Motherbox to be worth about, I would say, between 45 and 55k a second in your loadout, again at the 493 CR. So, boom, it goes away. We'll wait for it to cool down. It can come back here in a moment, and we can see what it's doing. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and test the zombie sidekick just so you have an idea as to what that does too. Now, this one's not going to be affected by your cooldown removal from Mercy, unfortunately. And boop, as you can see, I can just go Mercy, and it shortened that cooldown. We're going to do that again here in a moment. Mercy, boop, shorten that cooldown. We're going to do that again here in a moment. Mercy, boop, shorten that cooldown. Now the robot, or our mother box is off cooldown now. So, awesome, right? Boop. That means we can use it again. We're going to go ahead and test it, and then we'll come back to the zombies here in a moment. So, this is what it looks like with Godwave and the Mercy. Boom, 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 boom. Bop, 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 bop. Boop, boop, boop. Now, Mercy's not doing anything for the Robot Sidekick, or not the Robot Sidekick, the Alpha Box by itself, but what it is it's providing an opportunity for Godwave Shard to come off the cooldown. And when Godwave Shard comes off the cooldown, nasty stuff. Plus, it's cooling down, like Mercy actively cools down the trinket pet there. So, but yeah, as you can see, like when we had the Godwave active, things like that, our damage spikes incredibly high, you know, especially dependent upon what it's currently doing. But you can anticipate at least double the performance out of it while the Godwave Shard ability is active, you know, which is awesome. That's what you want. All right, I did mention we were going to try out the fucking zombies. We'll give them their time to shine. Boom. There you go, buddies. Oh, we're angry. We hate everything. Oh, we're zombies. We hate everything. They're not very happy, guys. Boom. I'm not sure if this makes a difference with them, to be frank. I'm still kind of new to using these particular abilities. We're just going to let them kind of grind there for a moment while we go check a couple things out. Yeah, one heal, that's all. Trinket pet, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So, this ability isn't really going to cause them to do more damage necessarily, though you can see they're they're doing a lot of damage out of the box, like 95, 91, 103. But if you use the Godwave Shard ability, it does increase their output a little bit, you know, which is nice. Now, I don't know if the Godwave Shard ability necessarily picks what 3 pets it's going to improve. It's just going to pick 3 of them and improve them. So, it may be worth your while to limit, kind of like channel which pets you want to use, like maybe have the Robot Sidekick, Grim, and your box, and that's it, and just concentrate on those 3. Or if you have other options like this, you know, as you can see, it's increasing the amount of damage that any of these things does. Like, that's the one thing the Godwave Shard does, is any pet you have, there's a chance it's going to pick that pet, and it will massively increase their output while it's active. So, that's what all of those things look like separately. Lex, we're not testing Lex because Lex isn't gonna show up on that. So, if we put it all together, it's going to look something like this. And I'm not even doing this like really well right now, is the other part of that conversation, so forgive me. Oh, yeah, we're missing, sorry, let me start this over. We're missing one final piece of the puzzle that I took off at the beginning of the entire conversation, just so we could demonstrate this in pieces. And you don't have to use this. I do on this character, just because if you're going with pet build, Grim is probably one of the most important artifacts you can have. Where the heck did it go? Oh gosh. Oh, there it is. And get rid of the Robot Sidekick. All right. So that's Grim. Grim is good for the following few reasons. First off, it does damage, and it does pretty consistent damage. It's going to have very similar output schedule to the Robot Sidekick, maybe a little less, but it does something special that the Robot Sidekick doesn't. It's got a constant power applicator, so it does power interaction application. That being said, as you can see, like the robot's going to be like on the high side of like 35, 40. Grim is usually going to be in the 20s by himself. Again, does multiple useful things. First off, 5 precision, 5 might, 3 health just for having the artifact equipped. So excellent bonuses there. Your pet casts a powerful damage beam for 2 seconds to the target that applies the following power interaction. It does provide power interactions for you. It, at higher levels, it provides those around your primary target, not just to the primary target. Then the last one is really the reason why you want to get it to 200. Summon pets no longer reduce power regeneration. As a self-contained statement, it does what it says on the box. You want it to do that thing. Now, let's see what it does with the old Godwave shard there. Boom. Bop. 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 And as you can see, if the Godwave shard is active, it will basically double Grim's output for that amount of time. Now, Grim is not going to be your most important pet for damage, but Grim is going to be important because Grim is going to allow your rotation to take place without draining all of your power instantly. And again, if you're capable of getting good power regeneration, aside from that, you're used to running control, whatever it is, you may not need it. I like it because it solves 2 problems. It's another source of power interaction applicator. That way, between it and the Mercy ability, you'll always have one source of PI available. That thing will use its beam fairly frequently, and then your Robot Sidekick will use its ability to do a power interaction applicator as well. But yeah, so kind of writes itself. All right, now let's put all the pieces together. All right, boom, boom, boom. And we're just going to test this for a few rounds and see what it does. All right. Boom, boom. Now, the nice thing about having the fucking beam moves that we're doing here, like once you have those active, they give you a lot of opportunities for Godwave shard to come off the cooldown because you're using constant, Oh, shit. Okay. Didn't quite mean to do that. Now, the nice thing about this rotation is it can potentially spike very high. The bad thing about this rotation is it's not very consistent for output. That's going to be kind of an issue in some situations. You're not always going to get the kind of consistency that you would like to see inside of a situation. Like, if I was doing this rotation or a channeled rotation on my fire character, I could set a clock by the range that she's going to be in, damage-wise. You know, you're not going to get that here because you know you're going to have downtimes and gaps inside of your general output. In addition to the fact that your character, because you're not going to be able to use the extra fun stuff like I can't use you know. I can't use Candle while I've got this going on, so I can't guarantee that I'm going to get all of my crits out of my big guns here, as it were. But still, I mean, you know, it's, as you can see, I mean, this is doing significant damage. It's not sucking by any means. So, and this is a tank loadout, which means you could switch a couple of things around, turn it into a DPS loadout, probably end up with a very similar range of damage. Now, there it is. So that's kind of what that looks like. As you're going through, you want to start your rotation again over here with these two guys. Use the Spore Pod, heal immediately, protection, Mercy, Godwave, and then just go straight through your big guns there. Check in with your bottom row every time you use Mercy just to see if Godwave is off cooldown, because that's going to be kind of your meat and potatoes there for your back end. And just pay attention to where your box or your trinket pet, whatever that pet happens to be, is at on the cooldown cycle, because that's going to allow you to kind of maintain a very tight relationship damage-wise. And like I said, the closer you can get having Mercy off the cooldown when you hit it, the more accurate you can get that every single time, the longer uptime you can have with your Motherbox, which there's a reason why this is the industry standard pet. Okay, I use Motherbox, Alfredbox, or Fatherbox on every single character I have, and I do that because it's just that good. But yeah, there it is. Again, you could do some tweaking, kind of get some different results. We're just going to go up here and kind of do a little bit of a brief review here, just to see what we've got in the last few. Go boop, boop. But yeah, you know, it's a lot of variation is the thing. Like, you know, 412, 613, 510, 340, 531, 468, yada yada yada. We'll go ahead and switch it over to our 30-second read now, just to get you a more stable idea as to what it's doing. And then after that, I think we're going to be done, is where we're at for this one. Okay? Boom. All right. Let's go try one more round. Okay. Boop. This guy's back up again. All right. So yeah. Boom. 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 Boom, boom, boom. And normally I would provide like a direct rotation. Hey, this is what you need to do, and this is the order that you need to do it in. But the reality of circumstances, the way this works, essentially you're going to be beholden to whatever the cooldown is on Mercy for your best ideal results. So you want to make sure that your cooldowns for your shield and your Spore Pod are fairly consistent, or Fusion Wintry Bass. You know, whatever that is, that's basically when you're going to call the top of your rotation. But Everything else, you just kind of want to use one or two of these. Mercy, check your second row for Godwave, go back to the top, boom, boom, pow, use your power applicator or your Spore Pod again. And if you have Spore Pod is great. Spore Pod does a criminally tremendous amount of damage. It is a great DOT and a borderline first level applicator for how it starts. What it does. It is not the best DOT in the game, but it's one of the most universal for the purpose of, anything like that. Now, here's the other thing that I'm going to mention here. Apparently, I forgot, haven't been using my box for the last little bit. About a minute now, almost. But I'm also not using any boost, no Omega. I'm not using the DPS consumables or anything else for this loadout. I am using pets. Obviously, it's a pet-based loadout, so there's that. But what that does mean is, I haven't been using Neovenom either. Hell, we'll go ahead and do one with Neo right quick, just to give you an idea as to what it can look like. Hey. But yeah, so and our 30-second average, starting with 559, 443, 402, 367, 459, 553. Oh crap! Give me 2 seconds, and we're gonna do a little bit of this thing that I call math. We're just gonna do a little bit of that right quick here. Math is great. I'm not gonna get into the woods on it, but okay, 559, 443, 402, 367, 495, or 497, and then we got one Neovenom there at the end, we'll call that. Okay, so 3456 equals divided by 6 equals. So that's a tank damage output of 470 a second, or 470k a second. Sorry, let me specify. So that's a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. Okay. Um. Anyway, that's a primer. Like I said, I do have a field application video that I'll submit with this as well, just to give you an idea as to what's possible. But I would say with some tuning, you could probably make it very viable, and at the very least, it's going to perform fairly decently. I mean, inside of the same thread that I have here on the forum right now, my DPS performance for an all-channel loadout, no pets, is 570. So if you're knocking on the door to 500k with a tank build, you're in the right neighborhood, and that's it. But yeah, so hopefully that helps provide you all with a little bit of perspective. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. Okay. I guess that's the question.